This is going to be a hard one, but we might as well title it right away. This should not have happened this way. It shouldn't have happened this way. This has to do with the death of my mother-in-law, my husband's mom, and my mummy. And she named me Ashity. So I go by T, but she called me Ashity. And I'm going to keep her anonymity here best I can, and tell you what I can tell you because I need to. I need to tell you, because that's just me. And I don't think it's going to sit right until I share what's been going on. So, Mom died June 13th. So, a couple months ago now. She had cancer. She had cervical cancer, which is also known as cervical cancer. It's just how you pronounce it, depending where you're at. She had a hysterectomy back in the day when they did hysterectomies where they didn't take everything, right? And in this case, a lot of women are finding when they hit their 80s-ish that they are getting cancer in this area. And so that's what happened to Mom. But Mom was like, she's the kind of woman that she's going to do what she thinks she should do. She made up her own mind she was going to have treatment because the thing is, it was not dire at the moment. Yes, it probably would have taken her life. Yeah, yeah. But not today, not this week, not this month, probably not this year. There would have been time, and time is everything, isn't it? Time is everything. Um, so Mom started having her treatment, and she had a combination of chemotherapy and radiotherapy. And she went for it. She went in hard, almost every day of the week she was having treatment, which is hard on the body. Yeah. But this is all expected. If you've had cancer, if you know someone that has cancer, you know, the treatment itself can be really rough sometimes. And there came a day where she wasn't feeling very well and she decided to go to hospital. They were like, you know what? You're having trouble walking. You're feeling that bad. Why not go to hospital and see if they can give you a treatment? Because that's what they do. You have a team, a cancer team that works on these things. So they know what's going to hit you. They have ideas. And so she went to see what was going on. And so they ran tests. But at first, they kind of just kept her out in the emergency room. They did that for, I think, 2 days in a row until my husband and sister took her home because they weren't going to do that to her and let her sit there in pain and agony and feeling horrible for 2 days in a waiting room for the NHS. Okay. And yes, we are going to talk about the NHS. We'll get there. We'll get there. And excuse me, I've got a hair. Um, so eventually she got a room and they did, NHS did some research on her. Not lots. They didn't do major scans or anything like that right away. They were like, well, maybe she just doesn't feel good because she's having this treatment and what she needs is some Tylenol or paracetamol, which they call it here, or acetaminophen, as they call it in America, which is nothing, right? Well, the thing is, she couldn't hold anything down or in. So they gave her pills, tablets to take. And there they sat on her end table with some water. Take those. Those will make you feel better. Had she have even tried to swallow them, they would have come back up. So that was one. So the family was like, can we have an IV for her because she's getting dehydrated now, after 2, 3, 4 days of no fluids. starting to feel even worse. You know how horrible you can feel when you get dehydrated, even just from the stomach flu, right? And so they're like, oh yeah, yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that. Well, that didn't happen for a long time. And we were like, can she have pain medication? And they're like, well, we don't want her to get addicted, to sometimes people come in here asking for drugs. Okay, she's 80 something years old. She's in pain. She doesn't take pain medication. She was asking basically for Tylenol, paracetamol, and she was asking for it in IV form so that she could feel better. And she still waited. So that was April. She went in April. Time went on and time went by. And one day, one morning, I heard from my husband and his sister that they'd gone to visit Mum in hospital, and she seemed quite confused. And we were trying to figure out why the heck would she be confused? What happened there? Did they give her some kind of new medication? I mean, my gosh, we were begging them to give her IV anything, fluids. So they were like, no, we didn't give her any new medication. We've still not even given her an IV yet. That IV bag is just sitting there. It's not been used yet. Don't be silly. And all day long, they realized that Mum was having difficulty putting words together, finding words, speaking clearly. And this is a woman who was very intelligent and was an art therapist and an artist and a writer and had a good, decent command of the English language, who was stumbling and not finding her words. And finally, in that late afternoon of that day, we came to find out that Mum had had a fall. And so the family asked, could you do a scan on her to find out in that fall, did she hurt herself? Well, they did the scan, and in however long it took them to come up with the results for that, we found out she'd fractured her skull. They let her go to the toilet on her own when she was dizzy, couldn't walk, and she fell and she cracked her head. And they didn't tell us. They made us basically wheedle it out of them. That was one. All in all told, Mom fell 4 times. 4 times in the hospital. And in almost every case, she was left alone. And she fell. Because, they forgot to put the sides up, or they left her in the toilet by herself, to give her some privacy. She didn't care about the privacy. She was having a hard time sitting upright. She just wanted to go in there to the bathroom and be comfortable, right? Because she's had these stomach cramps, these hellacious cramps. And as the days went on, she would cry out more and more in pain and confusion and sometimes fear. And the next thing to happen was something called cellulitis. And if you know, you know. And if you don't know, it's a form of blood poisoning. And she got it in her hand, where they finally did put a catheter when they were planning on getting that IV going, which still took some time. So she was very unwell. Her poor little hands were swollen. She felt terrible with the cellulitis, with the high fever. And of course, she had an infection then. And with cellulitis, you need to get some serious antibiotics going. And they straight away did nothing. They straight away did nothing. And she didn't get antibiotics. Not right away. Eventually she did. Eventually she did. Eventually she got the paracetamol. Eventually she got an IV. And what would happen would be that that'd be all right, but then a weekend would come along and then she'd go downhill. And we were like, Why is mom almost dying every weekend in the hospital? Why is that? Why is she rallying and then on the weekend she's coming close to death? And we came to find out that for this very, very, very big teaching hospital in the NHS, guess how many head GP, that's doctors, how many there were for each floor and all of that? How many? One on the weekends. Well, because they're understaffed, because they don't have the funding. Well, because they've sent a lot of people away, haven't they? Um, reasons. And hey, I'm the first person that found the NHS to be beloved. And as an American, born in America, think, wow, NHS takes care of people and they don't have to live in their car and lose everything or have a job that has insurance. And if they lose their job, they don't lose their life. You can have cancer and survive it, even if you're not rich, or have the means to get through that. So, and mom was one of the first people out there clunking pans and making noise during the time of COVID to rally the medical teams, all those people that struggled, all those doctors and junior doctors and nurses and all the people, surgeons that were there during the time of COVID. She donated money to them. She painted pictures. She wrote. She even blogged, vlogged. She was all for them. And she treated them with nothing but kindness and compassion. She treated them with nothing but love and kindness. And what she was given back was horrifying. Horrifying. So you're going to forgive me, I hope, for this emotional chat. Because this didn't have to happen. This didn't have to happen. This woman could have lived out her last days at home in the rose garden that she loved so much, taking little walks and looking at the faces of the sunflowers that she loved, and doing her meditations and seeing her grandchildren all grow up and go to college and graduate and get these amazing jobs and have her children nearby. That's all she wanted. She wasn't a fancy lady, but she deserved so much more. When this woman came to America, because she wasn't born here, she came here when she was 19 to help people learn to speak English. She was from India and she was only 19. Talk about scary. She was there with her sister and she almost single-handedly got people together and got them to form an organization to bring people together to help women learn to speak the English language so that they wouldn't be isolated and lonely. And she learned art therapy to help people learn to speak about what was bothering them and get that communication going. She was mending fences. She was about equanimity. She was about communication, love, justice, compassion, balance. And there she was in this hospital bed, screaming out for her sister. So she did that many times when she would become delirious, because delirious she did become. And she would cry out for her sister who had already passed away, who had already died, crying for her. And at one point, one of her granddaughters had passed by and she told her granddaughter, "Get me out of here. I don't want to die in here." And all during this time, I'm hearing what's going on, and I'm hearing fractured skull, 4 falls, cellulitis. Well, Then she got a cough that wouldn't go away, and we're like, is it pneumonia? What's going on? Because what happened was they put her in general population, so which is what you do, right? If you're having chemotherapy and radiotherapy and your immune system is weak, you go right into a whole big room full of people who are sick, right? Right? And so it was one of the nieces who said, could it be? No, it was one of the granddaughters. And she said, could it be that she's got COVID? Have they tested her for COVID? No, they tested her for COVID. She had COVID. Helpless, 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 helpless. Somebody help us. Somebody help us, right? Somebody help. Because all of these things were not the cancer. This wasn't the issue. You could have saved her. You didn't need to let her die. She didn't need to. She didn't have to go yet. And she certainly didn't have to go that way. So months, weeks, months went by, and she got more and more unwell. Occasionally she'd pop through. And when she did, oh wow, she let everybody know how it was. I don't think I'm my body. I love you all. I'll always be with you. Be strong. Watch after each other. Know I'm always, always with you, and I love you. And then she'd go off again, dancing out there in the stratosphere somewhere, looking for her sister and journeying on her way home. In the summer of 2024, when the flowers were finally coming out after a long winter, when the daffodils' little faces were popping up, the little yellow, cheerful faces that she loved, and the sunflowers were in full bloom, and it was gorgeous, and her garden was just alive and hopping, and that's where she wanted to be. And instead, she had her daughter and her son on either side of her, stroking her hair and hushing her and soothing her. It's all right, mommy. It's all right, mom. Okay, we're gonna find someone to give you something to stop this pain. And eventually they got a palliative team. That was, I think, a week before she died. And even then, guys, it didn't really help. She would still cry out. And you know, if you don't know, I'll tell you now. I'm an end of life doula. So, and if you haven't heard of it, look it up. But one of my roles, this end of life doula, is to make sure that people die in the way that they want to die, and they die with respect and dignity, and of their own choice, their way. If they want to die at their house, in their bed, with their family, all crawled in with them, or their favorite champagne, or whatever it is. You know, we make sure, and we do all documentation. We make sure that their will is okay, that if they want to have a funeral, a celebration of life, all that stuff, we get out of the way for them. We move all that out of the way, and we work with the families on bereavement, because, you know, it's tough. Sometimes it's tough because you've got loved ones who they want to talk about it, but they don't know how, and they're afraid if they do talk about it, they'll upset you because you have cancer or you're at end of life. And so my job as an end of life doula is there to help with the bereavement, with the feelings that people get before death hits, the fears, thoughts, and we talk about that. We talk about the waves hitting the boat, and at first it's just a ripple. you know, and sometimes it's more and then it's more. And we talk about what death means to each person, and we get a plan together. Sometimes we write stories together. Sometimes we do an ending story. It's epic, and it's everything and anything you need it to be and want it to be, and it damn well should be. It damn well should be. And, you know, I would get these phone calls from my husband, and he'd say, "I'm sorry, yeah, I don't know what to do, T. I don't know what to do. My mom, she's a little bird. She's so fragile. I just keep promising her that soon the medicine will help. Soon it will. And you've been ever so brave, and you're so loved. We love you so much." And the day before she passed away, I went to go see her with my husband just to let her know I was there. And I didn't do that a lot beforehand because we had talked and we knew where we stood, and I know what she believed in and all of that. So she had asked me to officiate her celebration of life, which I promised to do, and I did. And she asked Ben to play an ending song to sing her out on, or to play her out on, something she would like and love. And she asked her grandbabies to do readings and her daughter to do a reading. And it was a beautiful time of all the people, all the foster children that she had helped, because, you know, what I looked at when I was doing my eulogy was a room full of orphans. Because my husband's father has passed away, and then his mom was gone, and there's just people were made of glass. And there were so many, when they were saying their goodbyes and coming to take their moment at the coffin before they left the building, they, you know, would take their time and give a kiss and say thank you. But they were left without her, and they adored her. They adored her, and she didn't have it coming. And you know, part of me does have that belief that we make our choices of where we're going, what we're going to do. And if that's the case, which that's what Mom believed, that, you know, you're kind of paying off these things. You're here at the School of Hard Knocks, also known as Earth. Well, I'll tell you what, I told her, you've paid off everything. When I was there the last day, I told her thank you for her beautiful son, my love, my one true love. In the I would cross the ocean for him many, many times again and again, and I would watch over him. And I know that he and his sister would look after each other, and in doing that, they would look after all the children, and we would still be a family. So we were gonna miss her. We would know that she was there with us. And what we'd been waiting for was hospice, because we thought, gosh, at least we could get her a hospice room, and that means the family could like sleep over, and we could make her more comfortable. They could make sure they really gave pain management, you know, really handled that, the agitation and the pain. It's not always perfect, but a lot better than it was. A lot better than it was. And so that night I heard, you know, we got the call that yes, there's a hospice room for Mom. And so that next morning, Ben got up really early. His sister she lives closer to the hospital, so she and her husband went to go transport Mom over to the hospice, and they sat with her. And then Ben got there, and he sat down and he kissed her and stroked her hair, and she took her last breath. She took her last breath. Beautiful soul. She was so dirty. really dirty. And we had like, I think the NHS did some kind of like research into everything that happened and said, no, we did everything we were supposed to do. Sorry for your loss. We'll use it as a learning tool. La, 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 la. Because that's how they do that. And I'm not saying always and they always and it never and blah, blah, blah. I'm not, because I am a proponent of the NHS. I love the idea. But what's happened right now is I wouldn't go there, guys. I'm scared. I'm scared to go to the GP now. And I never was. Not afraid of any of that sort of thing. Never, 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 never. Now I'm afraid for my family and for myself. But yeah, my mom, she suffered needlessly. And I know in her beliefs that, suffering is part of life. I understand that. She has Hindu beliefs and Buddhist beliefs and a little bit of this and that. But I know for a fact she wanted to be home. She wanted to be in her bed. She wanted to be with her orchids and her flowers and just to be comfortable. And bless her. God, help her. I mean, I'm so angry. Who can I find? Who? Where? Where? We've gone to pals. You guys all know what that is in the UK. We did all our due diligence. She even went to coroner because coroner was not happy with skull fracture. Wasn't happy with them saying that they had actually put that she died of cancer, which she didn't. The cancer didn't kill her. No, the hospital did. All the stuff she was exposed to, and damn, if she couldn't have just some relief. And that was the hardest part, the hardest part. Because, like I said, as an end-of-life doula, I'm all about that. That's my thing. That's my thing. If I'm working with you, I'm like, we're going to make sure that you're as pain-free as you possibly can be and be as aware as you need and want to be. We'll do our best. But that just didn't happen. And when the time came, my husband and his sister, they walked their mummy home. And they turned loose of her and let her walk on her own as she did when she taught them to walk. And my husband stayed and waited for the funeral directors to give her a kiss. And we asked them to cut 2 little lockets from her curly gray hair that we touched and stroked so much in her little cheeks. And I saw the picture in my mind of her frowning because she was hurting. She was sad. I also know, though, that she was laboring. It's like that. She was laboring to go home. And she's gone home now. And I just needed to get this out because I do not want to drag her ending around, because I feel like it does her no good. It's no tribute to her and her beautiful life and her amazing life and her strength and courage and ability. I don't need to keep replaying her last days. That's not fair, because that's not who she is or who she was. That was just how it all went down. But wow, just so my husband and his sister and me, but them mostly, they're so traumatized. They're so traumatized. Can you imagine holding on, and you can
see the IVs. You can see them roll by with pain medication. And you're begging, they're begging. And they had to play the game, you know, because if you get too angry, they can kick you out. They'll get the police on you and you get out. They had to play the game and make it work. And they tried everything. They tried everything. I love them so much for how hard they tried. I guess that's it. I'm wearing her beads. These are the beads she gave me. These beautiful colors are her. We made a little altar in the living room. We've got some more things to put there, and her urn is there. But it's just like, I don't know, guys. Please share your stories with me. Please tell me how it went for you. Grief is a living thing. I've told you this before. We talk about this as end-of-life doulas, as a funeral arranger, as a celebrant even. We talk a lot about bereavement. I was raised within this concept of grief and healing and all of that and what it looks like. But when it hits home, it's a whole different thing, guys. It's a whole different thing. You know, it's a lot different when you're helping someone walk home and it's happening the way they wanted it to. Yes, it's still damn sad and they want to live. Of course they do. But we're able to make beautiful things happen, you know, and the only things we could do that were good were to occasionally get rid of some pain for her. And my husband and his sister, they were just outrageously beautiful and strong and good parents, because you know that's what happens sometimes. You take that role on. You parent your parents at the end of their lives. And they held her and they told her she was the most lovely mummy, and how much they adored her, and they soothed her and they shushed her and hushed her and loved her and stroked her and took such good care of her. But they're shattered. They're shattered. They will never be the same. They will never be the same. And me, well, I don't feel like I'm done yet. I still feel like I have some things I'd like to say and talk to the NHS about, and I am. I know it's not a win-lose because I know I'm gonna get sorry about how you feel about this. You know, we did the best we could do, and then I know there's gonna be a time where I'm gonna have to move away from that and do another way to honor her life. And I will. I'll do my Dodcast, vodcast, vlogcast, um, and make sure that we talk about aging and that we talk about dying the way we want to die and living the way we want to live and all the other silly things I come up with. There'll still be tea talks, there'll still be all of those things, but I had to go away for a while because I was sad, and I'm still sad. I'm still sad a lot of the times. It will hit me. And just like my husband and his sister, it hits them really hard. You know, they'll come home and want to text their mom, like tell them what kind of day they had or what's going on, and they can't. And my husband is very scientific, very analytical, not super on the spiritual realm. And so he's like, I can't believe I'll never see her. I'll never speak to her. He's trying in his own way to see if he can't leave the doors open and see if he can't maybe feel something, find something. I believe he will. I'm always looking for signs. I always will. I've found them. I know she's nearby. I know she is where she needs to be. I can trust that. with all the other beloveds that have gone, and some have gone this month, these last couple of months. It's been hefty. And there's the fur babies up there too, and all your loved ones. I hope she gets to meet them. I'm just so you call it heartbroken. So heartbroken. So sad. So sorry. Wish I could scoop her up in my arms and just tell her it's a bad dream. We're gonna get this going the way it should, but there was no way to make it work. We couldn't. And that was so frustrating to me. As an American, I guess, in my mind, I was like, well, no, isn't there a way? They have to. They have to. They can't. They can't not give her the medication. They have to help her. They didn't have to. And I couldn't accept it. My mind was just in shreds over it. I was like, what? How could you do that to somebody? How? Why? Like, I get you're busy and you're overwhelmed, and God, you could be depressed. There could be all sorts of things going on. There might just not be enough people, but what about your humanity? Where is it? How could you walk past her? How could you look at her and see and not be moved to do something to help her? How? I don't know. I don't know how that could be. I just literally have no idea how um that could come to pass, that somebody's mind and body and heart would let them do that. It's beyond me. It's beyond me. I don't understand people like that. And I'm sure there were some lovely people there, but there needed to be a lot more. There needed to be some heroes in there. And there weren't. The only heroes there were my husband and his sister and the family holding her, and of course her. She was the hero of it all. And she's left behind a legacy. Oh my God. We've got all her work, all her artwork, all her writings, all her paintings, all her words. We all look on our phones and see her texts. She used to leave my husband text when, if he did like a piece of music and he'd play it, she'd leave him a text saying something, something mummy-ish, right? But it would bug him at the time, and now he misses it so much. Remember that, guys, right? We're not here forever. Cherish. Cherish what you can. Embrace the day for whatever it is, even if it's raining, even if it's a hard day, even if we're here. We're here and we have each other. There is hope. There is hope. And that she taught me that. She's the one who told me this is just a vehicle to get us to where we need to go. I'm holding on to that, Mom. I am doing the best I can. And I'm walking my way through it the best I know how to do. This is all I know how to do, is to talk and say. And that's it. And God, I loved you and I love you now. I love you more than my luggage. I'll always be Asha team. Thank you for giving me that. Use it with honor always. And thank you, because now the family is even bigger. We'll get to meet these people and talk to them and get a bigger relationship going and learn more. So I guess that's what we have at the end of the day, but that's the story, folks. That's what happened. This shouldn't happen like this. This shouldn't have happened this way. But it did. And for that, I will cry a pool of tears and swim in it. till my entire body is submerged in them. And then we'll get up, drop off, and go on and see what I can do. And I will. Like I said, I will do. I promise, Mom, I will do. So thank you to all of you who have listened, and I mean it. Please share what you know, what you've been through, your experience. The only thing I would ask is if you could be a little bit gentle here with any NHS stuff, because I know they're overburdened. I know all that sort of stuff. I'm not downing them. So please don't take the time to explain. You can imagine, right? Leave that for now. Leave that at the door. We'll deal with that later. Just need to get through right now. So be here with me. And I'd love to hear from you. And I'd love to know more about you and what you went through. And, it will make a difference. And I'll share it. I'll share it with everyone as well. So thank you. Sending love to all of you, and to those of you who have been through this. Sending extra love to you. Thank you so, so much. And Mom, I know you're around. I got you. I got you. Thanks all. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you.